Hey everybody, Scott Luton with Supply Chain Now with my dear friend here, John DeSarbo with ZS. John, how you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Great to see you. Absolutely. Now we've established, as much as we have kindred spirits, he's a Washington Nationals fan and I'm an Atlanta Braves fan. But you know what? We're bridging that divide
today. We can be friends for the interview. That's all right.
All right. So a lot of good stuff here today as we share more key takeaways, top leaders from Gartner Supply Chain Symposium 2024. And I want to start with this first topic. You can't take 3 steps here at Gartner and not talk about AI. Absolutely. It is everywhere, every conversation, right? AI, Gen AI, whatever you want to call it. But you know, what comes with all of that, which we were talking about before we went live here, are promises. I think that was like an 1980s tune,
yes, it
right?
was.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know who sang it, but I remember it's in my head now.
Okay, good. So it works. Because there are tons of promises being made about how AI, Gen AI, you name it, are going to transform supply chain performance. So a lot of those promises, we've already seen some early returns,
Yep.
right? But a lot of other of those guarantees are what you called a bunch of hoopla,
Yep.
or a bunch of flash in the pan, bunch of nonsense, whatever you want to call it. So help us, for those supply chain leaders out there, separating the fact from the fiction. Your thoughts?
Sure. Well, one thing to be clear, I think to start, let's separate classic or traditional AI from Gen AI, because I think a lot of the hoopla that we've been experiencing is more in the generative AI area.
Right.
But yeah, I think we're when it comes to Gen AI, we're probably, 15 to 18 months, depending on how you look at it, into this transformation, this evolution that we're, a revolution that we're in. And I think, there's a lot of people that are very excited about the opportunity, but then a few that are starting to become a little skeptical.
Right. And rightfully so, right?
Absolutely. And I think that right now, I think there's a lot of people trying to figure out what's fact and what's fiction. And when I say those terms, I don't really mean the validity or the potential of the technology,
right,
but the impact. Like, where have we really seen true business impact from that technology? So I think that's what conferences like the Gartner Symposium is a great opportunity to see what's really happening out there and to really see what's hoopla and what's actually reality.
Love that. I'm gonna steal that word from you. And as you were sharing your perspective there, one of the things that we have talked about a lot at Supply Chain Now, a variety of conversations, is for those business leaders that start first with what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
That's where more of the incredible promise can be delivered, versus those that latch on to a new technology. We should be using this, they throw it over the fence, and that's where some of the hoopla might come in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, this is just one of the latest technologies in our toolbox, right? I think of Gen AI as like a screwdriver that we're going to apply to build a project. And so I think the first thing is understanding that it's not a silver bullet. It's something you're going to use to solve a business problem. It's a tool that's used with other technologies, classic AI, automation, some of the guts of data management that we've all been working through. So I think that's one thing we've learned from last year, is that you really have to think about it as one tool in your toolbox that can be applied in lots of different ways.
Yeah, well said. I like that analogy. One tool, Gen AI is one tool in the toolbox, right? And even so, you got some organizations out there doing some really powerful things, and you got some other folks out there selling some really powerful messages.
Yep.
So how do you further dive a little bit deeper and separate that fact from the fiction, especially when it comes to Gen AI?
Yep, absolutely. I think there's several things you can do as you're evaluating, a new tool, a new application of Gen AI. I think the first one is go to Missouri, right? Show me state, right?
Yes.
Show me what you got. Because I think there's a lot of talk right now, and if you can see the application, I think that actually gives you more comfort. 2 is I think you want to see some acknowledgement of the complexity. This is hard, right? I think, to apply this new technology. So I think you want to see someone tell you about what was difficult about implementing Gen AI to address a particular challenge. And I think the third one is, you said it earlier, go back to the business impact, right? Did this have a real impact or not, right? I think that's something that you really want someone who's presenting this new idea to be clear with you about.
Love that. And you worked in the Missouri pitch there. I love that. Ever been to St. Louis?
A lot of times, actually.
Oh, cool. Great baseball city, too.
It is, yep.
The show me state, folks. The show me state. Love that. All right, let's switch gears.
Yeah.
John, as I was kind of doing some homework and kind of seeing some of the cool things you've been up to, you and the ZS team, I came across this interesting blog article.
Yep.
And your ears may have been burning because I've been sharing this challenge that you've been putting out there as it relates to viewing uncertainty a lot differently. Now, we've lived, goodness knows, we have lived in the era of uncertainty, it seems like, the last few years, right, for a variety of different reasons. But one of these thoughts you were putting forward is the business leaders out there, leading organizations, are viewing uncertainty not as just a complete challenge. They're looking at it as big opportunities, right? They're leaning into it. So as I think about, as I was reading your views there and thinking about that, what do supply chain organizations need to have in place, at least a couple things, so they can act on the opportunity of converting uncertainty into competitive advantage?
Absolutely. I love this topic. I read a book recently. It's called The Upside of Uncertainty by Nathan Fuhr.
Okay.
If you haven't read it, read it. It's great. And basically the whole idea, it wasn't written about supply chain. It's just this idea of embracing in your life uncertainty as inevitable. And I think that that's really what's behind this concept, that I've this thought that I put forth in that article. We've lived through this really challenging time period where uncertainty was really negative, right? I mean, peanut butter off the shelves, no toilet paper.
Right.
We lived through that, right? You can think of the container ships stacked up outside the ports.
Man.
But that's just our frame of reference, right? I think there are other periods of time when there are companies that reacted very quickly to changes in market conditions. And that's really what I think this is all about, is how do we put a positive spin on this uncertainty that we're all dealing with? And how do you do that? I think first is a mindset shift. You got to reframe, I think is the term used in the book, the way you think about uncertainty. It's an opportunity to gain an advantage over someone who isn't maybe looking for it. And then, so how do you do that? One is mindset shift. Two is I think you need to put in place the processes and the capabilities to react fast to changes.
More agile.
There's the Mike Tyson quote, right? If everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And I think we all deal with that as supply chain professionals, right? So if you can react to getting punched in the face faster than your competitor, again, you can gain some ground. So I think two is not trying to spend all your time eliminating uncertainty, but putting in place processes that react quickly. How do you do that? I think you use all these cool technologies we have. We mentioned Gen AI, but sensing constantly when there's a change in your assumptions, and then putting in place the processes to work really, really quickly to take advantage of that. So that's really what's behind the idea.
I love that.
Yep.
All right, I love that perspective, John. Now, you mentioned the great classical, well-known philosopher Mike Tyson, because I love that quote.
Exactly.
And he's got an interesting fight coming up here, and there might be a supply chain analogy somewhere, but I hope Jake Paul has an excellent healthcare insurance plan.
I wouldn't step into the ring. I think he's 56.
Yes.
But I would not step into the ring.
Solid, rock solid.
Absolutely.
Me neither.
Yep.
I want to go back to really quick something you're talking about, being able to not just react, right, and developing that nimbleness, that I hate to use the word agile because it's become so cliche, but really, as better as we're getting in supply chain to predict, right, and kind of see the future in so many cool ways, technology and otherwise, still, the nature of the beast is we are reacting, and the disruptions and the curveballs and surprises, they're going to keep coming. So
Absolutely.
Being able to instill that agility in organizations is a big part of your response to how we convert uncertainty into competitive advantage, right?
Absolutely. And this is where I really see AI has the potential, right? I mean, I didn't want to be negative with the hoopla comment earlier, but I do think, these new technologies allowing us to process information that we previously couldn't handle as humans, right? And then very quickly make decisions based on that information. And that's where the speed comes from, right?
Yes.
So I do see that. I think that's where the nimbleness or the agility or whatever is going to come from. It's the use of AI and other technologies.
Well said, John. And that decision making, I think, when I think of the workforce and the teams out there, and we're able to enable them to make better decisions faster, that they're confident in. I mean, not only are we talking about empowering the organization to better perform, but they're going to find easier success in their roles and more fulfilling work.
Absolutely.
So it's all so related.
Yep.
So, okay, John, I wish we had 3 hours here today.
Yep.
I love the stuff you're dropping. Let's talk about this theme here at Gartner this year's Rethink Supply Chain.
Yep.
Right? We're kind of touched on that already through the first couple questions, but if you had to pick one, so many different ways when it comes to rethinking supply chain, so many different aspects of any answer there. But if you had to pick one approach to rethinking how we do supply chain these days that maybe doesn't get enough attention, you feel, what would that be?
I think, for me, it would be and you kind of alluded to this when you're talking about employees and so forth, but it's the organizational aspects, right? I think what I don't hear enough of a dialogue about is how we can rethink what is supply chain? What's the boundaries of supply chain? How does the supply chain functions or traditional functions interact with the rest of the organization, right? I think what we're talking about today, how do you capitalize on uncertainty and, application of these, this revolutionary technology? These are not decisions that are sitting squarely within supply chain. They touch all functions, right? So I think, I think that the big topic that I'd like to hear more about is how is the supply chain function and supply chain teams working more hand in glove with other functions, sales, marketing, customer service, finance, right? We have these processes that we've all been living with for the last 20 plus years, S&OP, S&OE, IBP, they're all the P's, right? And they cut across organizations. Yeah. And I think, I think right now we can start thinking, is that the way it should work, right? Or can we, given all these new tools in our toolbox, rethink coordination with other functions? A great example is we're hearing a lot about resiliency, or I think it's anti-fragility is the new term.
I like that better, resiliency.
If I look at how most of the companies I've worked with have addressed that objective from a supply chain perspective, it's been looking backwards, right? So how do I make sure I have the right inventory levels, redundant supply sources, all of that. But if you're thinking about fragility or resiliency being basically a result of an imbalance between supply and demand, right? You can work both sides of that equation, right? So to me, inventory management and pricing decisions should go hand in hand, right? I think, just if you're, rather than just only adjusting inventory levels to avoid stockouts, you could think about adjusting prices for alternative products, what have you. So I think what I'd like to hear more about, I kind of went on a tangent there a little bit, is how do we work across functions to solve these business problems and use supply chain management as a source of competitive advantage, not necessarily a way of minimizing cost or better managing risk.
I love that answer. And I think some of the good news, John, as we both know, is as the pandemic had such a massive shift, not just in general, which business schools and governments and professionals will be studying forever, but as we know, supply chain had already been ascending to the C-suite level.
It's at the board table.
That's right.
At C-suite. Right?
And that move started before the pandemic, but the pandemic really brought it front and center. Yep. And what I'm hoping is exactly what you shared as it continues to be, because we've seen some regression since the end of the pandemic. Some organizations have gone back to how they've been doing business for forever. But by and large, we're seeing, I believe, a more holistic view and embrace and engagement of the supply chain management profession, and that kind of speaks to your point. So we'll see where it goes from here.
I hope so. Yeah. We're really looking forward to it. If we go down that path further in the next 5-10 years, I think it would be really, really good for the economy. The economy, consumers, team members, employees, organizations, industry, as we're reinventing how business is done. So I'm with you. So that brings me to my next last question with you, John, and I like how you think here. If you had, picture this, you're up at this massive mahogany podium, right? And you've got thousands upon thousands of all the movers and shakers in global supply chain. Yep. What would be one challenge that you would issue them as you throw the gauntlet down? Yep. So, good question. I think I've been around for a little while as a consultant, and every 10 years or so, there's one phrase becomes more popular. And it's don't pave the cow paths, right? So, and I think Michael Hammer, a consultant, I think in the '80s, actually coined this term. He actually stole it from a poem in the 1800s or something. But it's the idea that, in Boston there used to be these wavy streets, right? And if you had decided to pave those streets, you would have led to a very inefficient transportation system.
Yeah,
so instead,
waste.
you got to make the streets straight, right? So that was the whole idea. And we've been using this term every decade or so to describe when technology's been applied to enable broken processes, right? So that would be my call to attention as we have all these, these great tools, Gen AI, traditional AI, automation, decision intelligence, all of this stuff that we're talking about, that we don't just apply it to do the same work we're doing today faster, right? Let's just not make bad decisions more quickly. Let's truly rethink how we work within our organizations, and then have technology support our strategy and our processes versus the other way around.
I love that. Don't pave the cow paths. Did I say that right?
You did say that right.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna steal that from you, John.
I stole it from others. So.
Okay, we'll keep reusing it. That's a good deal in this re-economy. Okay. John, really have enjoyed our time. John DeSarbo with ZS. Let's make sure, folks, y'all got, I think, an army here this week.
Yep.
Let's make sure folks know how to connect with you beyond Gartner.
Yeah.
How can they connect?
I mean, the easiest way, the company's zs.com, pretty easy. That's Z as in zebra, s.com, or ZS, depending on the country you're in. Hit our website. That's the easiest thing you can get. You can subscribe to various newsletters and so forth. Or, hit me up on LinkedIn. It's the easiest thing. I think it's John DeSarbo. You'll find other DeSarbos there, but I'm pretty much the only one that's going to be talking about supply chain.
We'll make it easy.
Yep.
We'll drop the link and the notes below. You're one click away from connecting with John.
Perfect.
And you'll catch that second half of that blog article that's coming up soon about converting uncertainty into competitive advantage. You don't want to miss that.
Awesome.
John with ZS, really enjoyed your chat here today.
All right, Scott.
And your thoughts. I look forward to future collaboration.
Definitely.
And to all y'all out there, hey, stay tuned for more coverage as we bring you key takeaways and dynamic leaders out there moving mountains, changing how business is done right here at Gartner Supply Chain Symposium 2024.